In our latest exclusive interview, we speak to Alex Assanvo, the Executive Secretary of the Ivory Coast and Ghana Cocoa Initiative, ahead of his World Confectionery Conference appearance, where he will be discussing a range of major issues affecting the crucial supply chain which serves the confectionery industry.
No, thank you. And I feel very proud to be joining such event because I'm here, so I represent the countries, so the origin, the producing countries. But we all know that cocoa is a matrix, right? So start from the farmer and end by the consumer. So this event for me is a way of connecting the two dots, right? So the origin, the production, and the market, so the consuming. And it's always good because we are entering an important phase in the commodity world and specific on cocoa. So it's good to learn where the market is going, what are the challenges we are trying to overcome together, and what are the roles of each actors. And everyone has a shared responsibility on anything we do. So I'm really pleased to be there.
If you could kindly explain your role now, you've taken on a very significant post with the Ivory Coast and Ghana Cocoa Initiative there in Ivory Coast. So how has that been for you in the past year or so?
Yeah, this is a very interesting role because, as you know, Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana alone produce almost more than 60% of the global production. So the idea for these two countries were to come together and try to build on some of the winning element they felt are needed, but also to be able to play the muscles in terms of production to ensure coordination in certain strategies, like, for example, market, research, consumption, local consumptions, and all this, because the two countries have realized that they have been relying too much on just exporting cocoa, right? So the idea is, what next? You know, what's the cocoa of tomorrow? And I think sustainability is one topic, but also is processing, local processing, which is linked to local consumptions. And these are all the strategies that we are working together, but also looking at bringing other countries jointly into that process. So it's very exciting, challenging, because as you know, dealing with many countries, it's not always easy, but it's also part of the excitement, right? So getting two massive countries, which I'm very close to. Myself, I'm from Cote d'Ivoire, but I'm very feeling close to Ghana, where I've been starting one of my key industry role at Cadbury, the Cadbury Cocoa Program. So I felt very, very blessed to be in this kind of role, which is linking me to the industry and partners outside there.
You've come from a corporate background as well, having been at Mars there. So how was it making that transition from that role into quite a different position you're in now?
Yeah, no, I see it as a journey, right? So I've been starting my career at in the NGO space. If you know, I've been starting as Fairtrade. I've been one of the key pioneer into Fairtrade in Africa and also Fairtrade in cocoa, bringing partnerships with the private sector and all. Then I move into the private sector. And I think after many years having experienced few, and the key and the biggest one is just a very good journey for me, because now, having learned from what's happened the other side, trying to help building also that bridge with the producing countries. And I think that's an interesting journey, because clearly the good things I could see is that everyone has been very clear that the sector need to do more. Cocoa farmers are still poor. And we were trying, when I was at the corporate level, trying to wrestle our head around that. So now I'm at the other side trying to also wrestle my head around this. So I think it's now the good timing to really see how the two parties, mainly the end and the start, can join force to really create value into that sector. So yeah, I feel very blessed on into this role.
One of the key aims of your initiative is to help, as you said, drive an improvement for farmers in terms of their pay and overall conditions. So what fundamentally do you believe needs to change to have real impact on that?
I think there is a lot of things that need to change. And it's always difficult to tell this one has to do this one has to do. Everyone need to think, what do we need to change? So we as country, we know we have started, and we know that transparency is required. We know that sustainability is a massive need and demand from the market. We have done our duty, but also we are farmer centric. So for us, the farmer matter. And we have been pulling a price mechanism that reflect our ambition to create that value. But also, we know that others have other stuff to do. We can't tell what they have to do, but we can guide by suggesting what are important, what are the things that are important. And we know, and we have been hearing so many times, price alone won't solve the problem. We are not saying price will solve everything, but we say that price is a starting point. If there is no reward, how are we going to ensure that people are incentivized to do the right thing? Most of the issues that we see in sustainability are often or mostly consequences of poverty. So, which means that price need to be the starting point. But if we start elsewhere, let's say you want to monitor child labor, that's a monitoring. It's not solving anything. You want to do traceability, it's a tool to demonstrate transparency, but it's not solving poverty, right? But all these things also has cost, right? When you take deforestation, reforestation, resettlement and reorganization and mapping and all this has cost. So for us, we do believe that when we say price, we are not saying how much is going paid, it's the mechanism. We need to all think differently. How can we ensure that the world we are in today, what we are doing today, will help us building the world of tomorrow?
You mentioned there about child labour, which is obviously a topic that I've been trying to write a lot on in terms of how that's tackled. It is the case that over 1.5 million children in Ghana and Ivory Coast are impacted by that, sadly. Do you see that changing in the coming years, given the initiatives that are now put in place?
It's difficult to say. As I said, as long as poverty is being amplified, this is definitely something that it will be difficult to say is getting better, right? As you know, I didn't even end one of the story I was telling earlier. So some of the farmers I've seen, they are at the level today where they have to choose whether they will buy fertilizer or bring the children to school. We tend very easily to talk about child labor. Anyway, there are many definitions and declinations of what is child labor, etc., etc. But overall and generally, until we continue to get a system where poverty is there, we can give all the theory. Yes, free market, this is the market, this is how it is. But then we say, well, but what do you want to do? If someone has to choose, can you imagine you have children and you wake up in the morning, you have to decide whether you will protect your trees, meaning to create some earnings, or you bring them short term to school. And this is, I don't know how anyone can handle this. And we take that for granted. Oh yes, well, child labor. No, for me, I think whether we talk about deforestation or child labor, any of these issues that are consequences of poverty, we need to really look at the bigger picture. So how can we create that system that will reward? But we can't just hiding behind, oh yes, no, sorry, that's a free market. That for me, it's hard for me to be sitting there and say, well, how do we reduce child labor, etc. While my biggest challenge is how do we create an environment that creates a reward so that people will have the choice and then can have a conversation. But me, I'm not, and I will not want to have my my boss or my whatever company, so who is paying me to tell me what to do with my money, right? I will not do it. So, but there are rules. And I think the rules can be respected if the environment gets stabilized. Once we get really an environment where really everyone is struggling to get the minima at the basic, it's hard to come in because people have to make choice. And then also they feel threatened because doesn't match the reality of what they feel need to happen for them to be saved. Because no one, and I can repeat again, no one is willing and no one will accept his children to be in bad situation. So if this happened, and if this is the case, well, there are assessments and there are numbers. And I think this is where I joined some of the scientific and statisticians who are saying that, well, depend on what we are talking about. If we talk about worst form, the numbers are very little in the cocoa sector. If we talk about child labor, well, depend on what we call child labor, but still, no one will want that to be continued. But then what do we put in place to make it happen, to make it happen and to avoid some of the threat? And I think that's where the conversation should be.
There. So despite all these challenges we have at the moment, you know, are you hopeful that, you know, as I was saying before, a corner will be turned in terms of how the market in West Africa functions sustainably for farmers?
Yes, I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. And I think when I see more and more the ability for all of us to be able to have the right platform to expose and to discuss and to share, shows that there is some willingness. I think everyone are not very clear how, and I think that's why we are all here to look at the how and to help bringing confidence. We government are, and we try to do our part, and you can count on us. But I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful. So, for example, seeing an organization like the one I'm leading shows that there are some willingness from the government part origin. So we look forward to continue building the right things for the right impact.